Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles et Messieurs, bonjour, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and good afternoon for those who are in Senegal, West Africa. My name is Adrienne Diagne, and we are every Saturday on the podcast named LEKET, La Caisse de Résonance Africaine. And today is a special day. We have two guests here in Los Angeles, California, on the radio show Sunuker Fm, the first radio in Los Angeles. Let's see. We have Miss Aracely Navarro. Hi, Aracely.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Alan Partono, who is our second guest.
Hello, good afternoon as well.
Good afternoon. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Aracely Navarro. Aracely Navarro is an EML with the Children Partnership, and she's a director of government community relations with this organization that is based normally in Los Angeles. She will tell more about the organization. What I know more about the organization is dedicated to work with immigrant children, if I am right. And we also have Alan Partono, who is working on the same organization and is a graduate intern serving the community as the engagement team, and also is currently an MPH candidate at the University of California of Berkeley School of Public Health. Aracely, the floor is for you. Can you tell us more about the organization, the Children Partnership?
Yes, great. Thank you so much for having us. Again, my name is Aracely Navarro, and the Children's Partnership is a California-based children's advocacy organization. For us, it really is important that children, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or place of birth, have resources and opportunities they need to grow up healthy and thrive. And it's our mission to advance this work through health equity that is driven by research, policy, and community engagement. So thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure, Aracely. And Alan, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you are doing with Children Partnership?
Yes, so as you know, or as you explained earlier, I'm a graduate student intern here at the Children Partnership. And kind of like what I'm doing here is I'm helping Aracely with a lot of the immigrant and community partnership type projects we have here. And one of these, which is the one that we're excited to talk about and promote here on this podcast that we're doing together.
Wonderful, fantastic. Meaning you work together and both of you work with children. How is the work that you are doing impacting the population that you serve, specifically in California? And what is exactly you are doing to change the life of children and immigrants in California?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I think I can start with some demographic data just to provide context and how we approach our work and why immigrant health has risen to the top for us over the last 5 years. So in California, there's 9 million kids, and about 9,000 are Black children who are non-citizen. And of those 9 million, also 13,000 currently live with non-citizen parents. And again, from those 9 million, about 81,000 Black children have at least one parent born outside of the United States. So this data really shows us that when we're talking about California's children, they're very diverse. And it's important that, again, as we approach our child health equity agenda, we're accounting for all the diverse needs of California's kids. And so this, in particular, on our immigrant health portfolio has really risen to the top because it is the unique needs and considerations that we must account for when we're changing policy, when we're advocating for quality healthcare and access, that we're accounting for the diverse and rich communities of California's kids.
Definitely a very important matter today, because we passed 2 years with COVID. We passed 4 years with a big stress, and if we go talk about politics, you know about the AIDS, what AIDS did for 4 years, 4 years ago, when the government have changed, how parents were taken from when they were dropping kids at school, and how the children partnership did cope with this situation?
Yeah, great question. So, under the previous administration, there had been a lot of stressors on immigration policy changes, potential and actual changes. And so that did create a lot of toxic continuous stress on kids and families. And of course, has been exacerbated by COVID-19 over these last 2 years, and the shift that it's had. And unfortunately, we've seen an increase of nationally and certainly here in California, the impact to children's mental health. And unfortunately, amongst Black youth, it's doubled between 2014 and 2020, and now is twice the statewide average, exceeding other groups. So it is significant in our BIPOC communities, and really thinking about how we approach services, treatment, and care, thinking about culturally and linguistically appropriate access as well. And again, part of the advocacy of our policy agenda is really integrating community and community voice. And a lot of, again, as Alan mentioned, that we do is really connect with organizations and those direct service CBOs who help us to engage with families and advocate for better services.
Thank you, Aracely. Alan, I have a question for you, because knowing what you are doing in the medical field and being also a child of immigrants, if I can say that, and if I'm going to come back into your background with your family and Aracely too, how did you manage what you are doing at the university and as an intern with the Children Partnership? How do you impact the community that you are part of?
Sorry, so I just want to make sure I understood the question correctly. You're kind of asking kind of like how my background influences what I do here at the Children's Partnership, and in general how I approach kind of like the like my education and pursuits and things of that sort. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, like as Adrienne mentioned, my parents immigrated from Indonesia back in maybe about like around early 2000s or like late 1990s. And so for me, like a lot of things that my immigrant family has influenced over me in terms of like the values, things that I try to uphold. And so some of those things include is like focusing a lot on schoolwork. And that focus has definitely helped me a lot in terms of being focused on academics and priorities academics. But some of the things that we've also done was kind of like work and volunteer at church. And during those times, I remember volunteering at like soup kitchens and things of that sort, where it's like always an important value of mine to continue to look and see like those who are in need, to help those and assist those who are in need. And so that's kind of what led me down towards this like public health route and medical route, where I'm working here at the Children's Partnership to kind of like address those causes of need as we think about kind of like social determinants of health, things like immigration status, how to better uplift our immigrant communities, and things of that sort.
Fantastic. Alan, as I know, as you said, your parent came from Indonesia. We have a large Asian community in Los Angeles and in California, the entire California. And we saw right now there is a fear because of the COVID and what's happened with the COVID. We have like now a population of immigrants, including Asian population, who are affected by a certain level of violence and ignorance. Now, in your side, did you, and also children, because young men, young people are seeing that growing. Now is Black and brown and minorities who are affected by that. How is your community, because you live in a certain community, resonate with that? How is resonate with your work with the children partnership?
Yeah, there's definitely a huge impact on what that means for our children's partnership. So like I'm fortunate that I haven't had to see on a personal level too much of those transgressions, but as we've known and as we've seen storylines throughout these last 2 years, that type of anti-Asian sentiment and violence has risen particularly against like Asian women and elderly. And so it's something that I'm aware of, and it's definitely something that is particularly more important when we think about AAPI immigrant communities. So for me, like on a personal level, and what I think about this violence and what we try to do is we try to continue to uplift and like humanize the AAPI community, because it seems like a lot of this violence stems from the fact that people have like racial stereotyping of Asians in terms of like kind of like homogenizing all AAPIs, even though there's huge health disparities within AAPI communities, as well as like the like traditional stereotyping in terms of how like Asians experience what they can and can't do and things of that sort. So the important thing for our work here at the Children's Partnership and what we would do in response to that is to continue to work with and collaborate with our AAPI communities. We do a lot of like, we shared a lot of our fact sheets, made sure they're translatable in various AAPI languages so that they're accessible by those communities. And we continue to stand and promote anti-racism against these transactions, or these transgressions rather.
Thank you, Alan. Aracely, coming back to you, I know a little bit about your history and your background. I'm very curious because of how you can relate it to the situation today. If as a child of immigrant, I guess, if you can tell us a little bit about your story, your family story, and we can share, because we may have the same background.
Absolutely. So I'm happy to share. I am a daughter of Mexican immigrant parents, first generation. Originally, my parents are in Sacramento, and I'm now in Los Angeles. And certainly, I think my experience really rooted, as Alan mentioned, in values of service, trust, tradition. And so that is very important to me. The cultural elements of my Mexican roots is really critical to me, and how I approach the work personally, professionally, really showing up as my authentic self and really giving space for people to be their authentic self, especially when we do community engagement, really building trust with community, and offering opportunity to be vulnerable too, in what we do and how we show up, and patience. Again, this ability to build trust really is around meeting people where they are, and as a partnership organization, really connecting people and organizations to the services, the supports. If the Children's Partnership is not direct contact, if you will. As a partnership organization, we really strive to build relationships that think about whole health and where we can connect partners across the state to somebody more direct. And, I think also for me, just tied to my roots and understanding, as also Alan mentioned, how critical it is to have not only translation or interpretation, but literacy and cultural sensitivity to the work we do as well, understanding that different cultures, it means different things to individuals. Again, Western medicine and access and equity. And so we are really mindful about that when we approach our work. And again, as Alan mentioned, in terms of our community engagement work, we're very mindful of the not only providing products in English, but our community-facing education, student-level resources, and for parents and families and those who support parent groups, really the products that we put together to help inform and engage families is really rooted in making sure that trust is built, that community is centered in the products, and that the literacy level is also captured, not just translated.
Effectively, well, fantastic what you're doing, because I can assure and I'm a witness of what the Children Partnership is doing, because we're gonna come back to that. We have a workshop soon where we'll be talking to different communities speaking other languages. That is the Haitian Creole and the French, but Aracely, we talk about it later. And it's important, as you said, to build a trust, because we know that in the history of immigrants in the United States, we have several situations and cases where people were used for different studies, like the Tuskegee survey with the syphilis. And also, we're going to come back to that. The women who were forcibly sterilized in the 70s, and without their will, they figure out that they remove their reproductive organs without them knowing. Specifically, that was the Latinos and Black community. If you can come back to that, and there is something that has changed today because the legislation is moving on that. Do you have any input that you can give to our audience, Aracely?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Certainly, what we've seen over COVID-19 over the last 2 years, and a lot of concerns around both access, impact, and unfortunately those who have passed as a result of COVID-19 over these last 2 years has significantly impacted BIPOC communities. And I raise that because through several surveys and focus groups of families, the concerns around the Tuskegee and the sterilization experiences and history have really risen to the front around concerns with the vaccine. And so we, are very intentional and mindful about the sensitivity to this history, and really being engaging of communities to make sure that we engage with pediatricians, and with medical providers and doctors and scientists, and really think about not only the science, but the sensitivity of the history around medicine and what it means to community. So again, as mentioned, we are hosting a future webinar on this, because we understand that there are still concerns, and we offer space in our programming for questions from community to capture what the continued concerns are, what data would be most helpful to uplift, to support our communities to really know and answer the questions that still rise to the top.
Effectively, the role that we have is to debunk the lies also that are spread in the communities through social medias, because now everybody can speak on social media, right? And can talk against science and bring some word that are definitely not showing what the vaccine is doing, just because of fears and a lack of trust, but also because there are some power behind that that I know, because I'm a community health navigator, case manager, and I work on the COVID-19 to also outside in the street to enroll people to get vaccinated and set up some vaccination site and COVID-19 testing site. And the answer is always, oh, you are the one that they hire that because you look like us. What's happened when somebody tell you that, Aracely and also Alan, both of you can respond to this question. What's happened when someone will tell you, oh, they choose somebody that look like us, who look like us, to convince us, like what's happened during the Tuskegee survey, what's happened during also the sterilization. There were our people who were convincing people to do that. What is the answer? How can we answer to that today?
Yeah, that's a great question and thought. Certainly, I think what our approach has been, and my personal approach has been, is to build trust, right? What are those fears and concerns? How can I address them? If I don't have the immediate answer, I'm happy to follow up with individuals. That's how we build trust in the community, so that it's not a one-time thing. And that's our commitment to, again, these quarterly webinars that we've been doing. Of course, we used to do them in person before COVID. So it really is about staying connected so that they build trust with us. They know that it is not just a one-time thing, and that they understand, and they're getting information from where they can build trust, because we understand there are a lot of fears and frustration across the board, just with everything that's happening. But we turn to the positive side, right? What are the programmings and benefits that are available to support you? Understanding that the magnitude of what COVID-19 has done to disrupt our society, but certainly our families and the health, individual and whole health of communities. So for us, it really is about building trust, relaying to them, that we are part of a network of advocacy organizations, stakeholder groups, community groups that really, believe in public health and community health. And so it really is about, and again, part of the Children's Partnership effort is that it's transformational and not just transactional efforts. When we're engaging with community, to make sure that we're responsive to community and sensitive to those concerns, and connecting them to the resources that will help facilitate that. But I mean, we can't change everybody's mind, but we certainly are able to connect them with the resources. And, I'm happy to also talk about an FAQ we've developed from this series of webinars that are sourced by, data beyond staff. Like we've done the research and sourced every answer that are broad of concerns. Right now it's ages 5 to 12, but before that it was all who became eligible, and certainly preparing for the little ones, 0 to 5. So we are sensitive to that. We are mindful of the concerns, and we try to truly be responsive to those questions by sourcing the information, engaging with those they trust, to make sure that it's consistent and we support those concerns.
Thank you, Aracely and Alan, because you are a younger generation. Because also, as I said, what I say younger generation, because you are in the college right now, and you are in the university, and also there is a resistance from, as I said, the Gen Z and Gen X. Because of that, I have a Gen Z in my house in 19, I think, is that, and all her friends will tell you. They get vaccinated now. They were telling you about the gingers and the grandma soup and how we can tackle the COVID. Now, on your side of the medical, well, somebody who's going on the medical field, what kind of question and how would I say resistance you face when you are in your environment?
Yeah, I definitely think that you will definitely see resistance to any sort of development that comes from science, just no matter what you see. So I actually used to work as a COVID-19 a caller, someone that does the case investigations that call people that have COVID-19, and so I've had a little bit of experience with that. In terms of the pushback, I personally wouldn't really change anything about my approach that Aracely didn't actually already said. And when you are faced with these types of situations, the important thing is establishing trust, because the idea is that it's not that people aren't necessarily informed, but for some groups, especially as we talked about African American groups, as a result of a lot of history of medical racism that I've seen and read through articles or books, even the medical apartheid, it's reasonable that that there are skepticism, especially if there is racial skepticism regarding vaccines or medical developments. I think that from there, it's really important to kind of address that root cause, where is this where are they getting the information that this would be harmful to them? How can we better ensure that you have our trust and that we're working in the best interest of you all? And I think once you work with them and kind of tackle those questions for regardless of the generation they come from, then you kind of get to a better point where you kind of get to a point where they're you get an understanding, and then you continue to remind them. But your intent is definitely not to actively harm anyone in this process. And it's actually in order to work into their best interests. It's just that we understand that there can be some skepticism involved, and you kind of have to address every side of the flag. Be willing to answer any questions. Be transparent as possible. Those are the ways in which you kind of rebuild and regain that sort of trust. And that's how you get people to be a little bit more accepting of the newest medical technology. And in this case, as we talked about, it's the COVID-19 vaccine.
Effectively, yeah, I think we have all of us have the sort of experience that you are talking about when you are in the field and convincing people. We're gonna have a little break for 2 or 3 minutes and see if there are people who are asking questions. And we're gonna come back for the second part of this program. Thanks for being here. We are also again into our program named LEKET, la Caisse de Résonance Africaine. LEKET is the echo, that is African echo from Los Angeles and African drumming from Los Angeles to reach out how much people that we can all over the world who are listening. And we are making this program. We are having this program every Saturday at 12 noon Los Angeles time on Sunuker.fm. Mesdames et messieurs, nous sommes donc sur LEKET, la Caisse de Résonance Africaine, basé à Los Angeles, Californie, avec notre cher et ami Xew Diop sur Sunuker.fm, avec nos deux invités qui sont Aracely Navarro and Alan Partono de l'organisation qui s'appelle The Children Partnership. Il s'occupe en fait de tous les immigrés qui sont des jeunes immigrés, les enfants, de toutes les nationalités qui sont basées à Los Angeles, en Californie. Nous prenons donc 1 minute de pause et nous revenons sur notre programme. Merci.
Dégloti Sunuker FM seeni kër la man dégloti Sunuker FM seeni kër la ba ñëpp di waxtaan ci Sénégal suñu réew lu jëmale suñu réew kanam loolu mooy lu wóor ñëpp joxe seen xalaat maam lu jëmale suñu réew ba suñu gaal gi moom du mës a suux man di déglooti Sunuker FM seeni kër la sama gaañi déglooti Sunuker FM sunu rajo la
Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles et Messieurs, bonsoir. Nous sommes la Caisse de Résonance africaine basée à Los Angeles, Californie. Il est 12h33 à Los Angeles, 20h33 heure de Dakar, 21h33 heure de Paris. J'espère que vous nous écoutez. Nous sommes aujourd'hui avec 2 invités, Madame Aracely Navarro, qui travaille pour The Children Partnership, et Monsieur Alan Partono, qui travaille aussi pour Children Partnership. Good afternoon. We are here today with the Children Partnership with Ms. Aracely Navarro and Mr. Alan Partono, who are both working with immigrants in California, and specifically they are in Los Angeles today. And we are talking about how we can work, how we can help the immigrant community based in the area where we are at. Welcome back, Aracely and Alan.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon again.
Yes. I think, Jawad, I don't know if we have someone who called for a question because I'm receiving some text message from my phone. Do you have a guest there? Jawad? Okay, meaning we don't have a guest for the moment. We're going to continue the program. Aracely, you said something that I remember before we went into a break. You said you are working with coalitions. I remember some years ago, I'm in Los Angeles, in California, since now 2000. I think I came in 2003. I went back to Latin America, came back, and stayed 2004, came back permanently in 2005, okay, as an immigrant here. But I remember that the Status Coalition didn't exist 17 years ago. But today we have a coalition. If you can talk about that, because people need to understand how we communicate and collaborate with each other to move forward certain legislations. And the win that we have this year is very important to all of us.
Great. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. So especially as a partnership organization, the Children's Partnership really approaches our work as coalition partners. Whatever the topic may be, we really do align ourselves with other organizations who are hoping to move the needle on health equity. So coalitions are very important to us. And the one in particular around immigrant health, in particular, around public charge a few years ago, was the Protecting Immigrant Families Coalition that was started at the national level. And then in California, our partners at CIPC, the California Immigrant Policy Center, led here in California, of which we're a part of. And so I think the beauty of this coalition is it brings multiple sectors together. So whether, again, as a children's organization, health advocates, food ally, food security partners, education, legal, housing, it really, and so on. It really brings multiple sectors together to really address the health of individuals and communities, because we know that individuals don't exist in silos, children don't exist in silos, they are impacted by their environment. And so over, I would say at least the last 5 years, this coalition at the national level, I believe over 100 organizations, maybe 200 at the national level, because I think in California, it's over 100 here. We have been working in collaboration on several things. One was on our messaging to communities. We really wanted to make sure that communities understood and got the same message across all of our sectors. So as you mentioned, when we're talking to community and building trust, it's really important that we're consistent. And so that has been part of our effort to make sure that whatever touch point of family or child may come across a system or an organization, that they are getting the same message, and that message is also simplified to understand it, the complexities of our immigration system, our healthcare system. And, I'm not a lawyer. And so understanding who, though, in my coalition I could go to collaborate with on policy and community, component of a presentation, as well as the legal supports. And so that's been an incredible journey. And so the Children's Partnership is a part of a work group which we develop both presentations and products that are community facing, to both help stakeholders talk about it, as stakeholders like ourselves, those who are supporting families, and then also community and family facing products, which facilitate the understanding of policy changes, what may be implicated or not in the individual's own experience, and where they can seek help. So coalitions have definitely been the driving force. We haven't gotten into public charge, but when the public charge test was proposed to change its definition, this coalition, as I mentioned, coordinated to submit a large amount of comments in opposition, and really sharing the impact and data that changing this public charge test definition would have on our communities here in California. And I believe over 200 comments were submitted. So that's the power of a coalition. And we're still working hard for our communities, really still trying to understand what's the best way to support communities. And again, in the context of what's happening right now, and then certainly making sure that families stay healthy.
Well, Aracely, you say two things that for me is like, as I say, raise my my interest. The first thing is First of all, you talk about public charge, if you can explain a little bit what it is. And second, what the coalition won by coming together. I can talk about, for example, the medical for all for people who are undocumented from age 50 and plus. The other one is a food for all, where we talk, health for all is one of the coalition, food for all is another coalition. But the 3 points, public charge, what it is, what the coalition won, and how we can get into the coalition. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes. So a couple of things. The public charge test is something that's used by immigration agents to determine whether an individual will be, I guess, an impact to the government, to depend on the government too much on public benefits in the future. And so the immigration officer will consider an immigrant's health, age, income, education and skills, family support and sponsored. And so all of these factors are weighed in, and it's currently still in place. What happened back in 2019 was there was an attempt to change the definition and that it be broader. Part of the challenge is that it is at the discretion of an immigration officer. And so, of course, for us as advocates, it was really important to add, to reiterate to communities that it was a whole package of considerations that I mentioned that are what's considered as part of this public charge test. The good news, as mentioned, is that we fought back through a series of comments opposing this expanded definition. And so as a result, back in March of 2021, the court stopped this public charge rule that was proposed in 2019. And so it removed the expanded considerations of food, health, and housing that were going to be included in the public charge test. So we've now reverted back to the original version. And unfortunately, again, because of COVID-19, the chilling effect of accessing public benefits has been really harmful to our families. And we want to just reiterate that it is still very important to access all of the services and benefits that you're eligible for, and certainly to talk to an attorney if you have concerns, which we can talk a little bit more about that. And then if I can, sorry,
Go ahead, sorry.
and last thing I will mention, just based on what you mentioned around the food for all and health for all, back in 2016, we expanded here in California health coverage for kids up to age 19, excuse me. And then we did an expansion up to age 26. And so currently the governor has proposed expansion up to age 50 of Medi-Cal full scope, regardless of immigration status. And so, of course, this coalition of Health for All is pushing for all Californians. And so that is the power of coalitions, again, for multiple sectors, really looking to push and advance that. Similar on our Food for All coalition, which again, our partners Nourish California are leading on as well. It really is about all of us uplifting the impact that it has on the sector we're advocating for. So for example, over these last 2 years, several kids, we did family surveys where parents were forgoing food to feed their kids. And so there's been a lot of policy change to support kids and meals and food banks to really think about how do we support families through these challenging times. And again, make sure that they have their minimum basic needs met. And so that all of that is part of our coalition work, where we know that kids don't exist in silos, and it's important that all of these needs are met, and through coalition, we've managed to advance them.
Thank you, Aracely. I think we have a guest right now who can come into the to find out, to ask some questions. We have Miss Elizabeth Akpan. Miss Elizabeth, you are on our call. Would you mind? You have some questions for the team for Aracely and Alan.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Even though I was locked out because it was I had double line, so that's why I decided to lock out and I'm coming back. I didn't hear the last discussion. Actually, the first one I was in, and I'm so interested, especially when it has to do with the youth, because I have one at home. We're talking about fear of this vaccine, COVID-19. I know that we had COVID-19 when it came out, of course, last year, about January, but it was so serious that even though we did not felt it, we couldn't smell anything, and we stayed home. In fact, it affected the entire family. And I have a youth that I had to rent a place for him to stay because we had it with the dad. But unfortunately, even the hotel, I put him and there was nobody to take care of him. I still have to go and get stuff for him. But before we knew it, he got the COVID-19. But you know what? We came out successfully. We stayed home after the 10 days. The hospital said we can go about our normal routine. And I'm surprised up till now, we are fine. We even took the vaccine after that, but he did not take it. And when I asked him, he said, well, Mom, it's not really the fear, but I don't feel, I just pray and I don't want to take it. So because I've seen a lot of youth, they don't want to take the vaccine. So I still need more explanation on that. Is it fear, or they don't want to take it, or is because of what they said, okay, that it will be after effects? That's why people, because I know some people opted out, that they don't want to take it. Even I work in the health environment hospital, I know that some staff, because they don't want to take the vaccine, they had to send them out of the office to give them some places, or they give them reassignment where they can stay with those that are not taking vaccine. So I really need more explanation, because we don't know if there'll be after effect or if there's anything wrong with the vaccine. So that is my question. And in fact, I'm so much interested in this conference. So that is my question for now.
Thank you. I can start first, and certainly we can connect you with additional resources. We're mindful of, and again, part of our early and continuous webinars with pediatricians and doctors who have been part of COVID-19 equity efforts, both here at the state level and also with under the White House. Our president is part of the COVID-19 equity work group, and it's really important for us to understand the data and what it means, and again, address the concerns as much as possible. I think at a high level, we have found that the vaccines are safe and effective based on the work of the trials and the clinical trials that have first shown that they're safe and effective. And again, before they are authorized or approved. One thing we are being mindful of, and again, considering as we gather the questions from our families, is around children with special healthcare needs, is around some of the youth around those who have had COVID and, say they're now immune and no longer need it. We reiterate that, of course, with the mask mandates changing, it's still important for you to protect yourself. And then, of course, also understanding that there are immunocompromised individuals who are not eligible for the vaccine, who will still be susceptible to it. And so it really is important for us to share, and we're happy to share some of the sources of which getting the vaccine prevents you from getting seriously ill, and again, keeps you out of the hospital and potentially away from death. So it is very real, though. I want to acknowledge that, and we want to continue offering information that helps address the continued efforts. Again, you all might have seen that the FDA did not approve the 0 to 5 yet. They wanted to do more work, and that is a commitment to make sure that the clinical trials are showing effectiveness. And so this is, at least in the United States, they are, the data shows that it works against these variants, and it is effective to protect you and of course those around you. So I'm happy to direct you all to a webinar we're going to be hosting on March 3rd. We can share a link and certainly promote it with you all, where we will have pediatricians and doctors sharing, and to the piece around the youth specifically, one of our providers will be talking about mental health and the impact COVID-19 has had on the mental health of youth, but also addressing concerns of youth's mental health. So I'm happy to share. We can share with you, Adrienne, information on that. And again, I'm happy to take this question more so that we can get a more comprehensive response from our pediatricians and doctors that will be on.
Okay, thank you so much. I still on that. As I said, I work in a health environment, and people complain that people are still taking the vaccine, but they still pass on. I know that personally that the vaccine is helping a lot, because I know that it's subsiding in the hospitals or even in the health environment. But the thing is, what I'm observing is that people that have complications in their health care, such that maybe they have one thing or 2, 3, 4, about a couple of diseases. So I think those are the ones that is really affecting, even though they took the vaccine. But if their health is, at least manageable, you don't really, it really helped. To me, if I want to say, the vaccine really helped. But for those that are, having other complication issues in terms of health, that's why they are still, they say they die because of COVID-19. So I really, really, as you are doing your investigation, which I'm still also trying to see what it is, I want them to really do investigation to see if there'll be after effect, as people think, because some people, mostly, as I said, some said, I've even seen some healthcare workers, they don't want to take it, even doctors, nurse practitioners, some in the administration. Because of that, they had to leave the hospital offices to go, they send them to ASCET. While they're still working in the hospital, they send them to other offices to work, because they don't want to take vaccine because they of fear, or they one thing or the other. Like said, some has already developed immune system that they don't even want to take it anymore. And now the COVID is getting subsiding. It's not as much. And when it came out newly, people were so scared. People ran away from work. But right now, people have started coming out. And I think what I'm seeing now is like they treat it as an ordinary flu. So that is why we still have to, do some investigation, and or even those that will come to speak to us on that day you mentioned, we really need tangible, results so that we can, let our youth and our kids to know what it is, because some of them are still wondering if they should take it or not.
Yeah. Sister Elizabeth, that's what we're going to do. And in fact, yes, the conference is on March 2nd from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Pacific Standard Time. Absolutely what Aracely said. We're going to have expert. Aracely, if you mind talking about this conference with you, and Alan also can explain to us what will happen to the conference and how we can invite people and our young people to come and attend this conference that is very important. Aracely and Alan.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And I think I appreciate those comments, because that helps us with our continued programming to make sure that both the resources and the individuals that we invite to our work can address these questions. So thank you so much for that. As Adrienne mentioned, we are hosting a public charge 101 webinar on March 2nd at 5 o'clock. And it will be with our legal partner at CRLAF. This is a partner of ours who is an expert in immigration policy and can address questions around accessing public benefits and the impact and importance of accessing the benefits that are available to you, and including the COVID-19 vaccine and treatment if you were to get COVID. There is a really great comprehensive website also available by the state of California in multiple languages, which also addresses those questions, as well as some additional websites that we will share with you all. And in addition, we will be providing one-on-one consultations with our legal partners to address individual questions or concerns around immigration that might impact your personal outreach for public benefits. So we wanted to share that with you all and give space for conversation and questions that may rise. I think I'll turn it over to Alan to talk about the logistics and what languages we'll be offering and more details.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So in general, we plan to have the public charge webinar is going to be scheduled for that Wednesday, which is March 2nd, and it will be running from 5 to 6:30 p.m. We'll be just spending time, like a good hour, like our legal partner will be giving a presentation, talking about public charge basics and like information that people should know about kind of like what public charge is now compared to what it was or what people think it was a couple of years ago, especially under the previous administration. So we will be doing that, and then we'll be ending with like 30 minutes of Q&A where you'll be able to ask all the questions you want from our like to make sure that they get answered. We'll also be having this webinar interpreted in both French and Haitian Creole for those audiences.
Well, thank you very much, Alan. That's amazing what the Children Partnership is doing. Definitely, I hope that after that we'll have a series of workshop and webinar, because there is so many things to say about immigrant in California. We didn't even touch the surface. We didn't talk about the children at the border, and also immigrants who are coming through the borders because of crisis in their country, running away from certain battles and wars and abuse, and the LGBTQ plus also community. We talk about it one day. But what I want to make sure that is we're going to go on and on with different series and make sure that people will, push and emphasizing on what they need, and we can respond to that, because it's a moment for us as a collaboration to come, make it, well, with a collaborative effort that we are doing today. We are just rising and being the voice of those who don't have a voice and those who are not heard, because they are only staying in their side and hiding because of fear, because of information that we are sharing with them that are false information. I am one of those who are afraid during those 4 years that we went through, 5 years now. And I'm one who was afraid about what people were telling me until I start looking with the public charge and also health for all and food for all. If you can tell the last word, Aracely and Alan, and let us know what we can do.
Yeah, thank you. I think the reality based on what you described is continuous toxic stress is harmful to every individual, and our recognition of the chilling effect of immigration policy, again, while not an immigrant policy-led organization, based on the demographics we shared with you all, California's kids, Californians are truly impacted by immigration policy, health policy, and at the intersection with food, again, with social determinants of health. So we want to continue to be allies in this work and look forward to staying connected and improving our resources to make sure that we connect with community and are responsive again in our programming. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Aracely. Alan, your last word?
Yeah, the only thing that I would like to say, it's really important to know what's available for you all for help. Like as you know, like navigating life right now is very difficult, especially since we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And so knowing what's available to you, knowing what you are entitled to access is very important in order to manage your various aspects of well-being, like financial well-being, emotional well-being, stress, especially if you're a family. So this is why we emphasize this work and why we're focused on ensuring that people are aware of how public, like what they can and can't do in their public charge. But yeah, mostly it's just like what you can do. So that's why we are very interested in uplifting this webinar event, and we hope you all can come if you have any sort of confusion about what public charge is. So,
well, thank you very much, Nawa Music. Thank you very much for playing this game today of question and answer. We are very grateful and we are humbled to see you working so hard and inviting us to be part of this process. As we said, we will see you on March the 2nd from 5 to 6:30. Venez nous trouver le 2 mars 2022 à 17h heure de Californie. Je vous donnerai l'heure, donc 17h heure de Californie. Ça fait 3h du matin malheureusement au niveau du Sénégal, mais l'émission passera, vous pouvez nous joindre. Ce sera traduit en français et en haïtien, en créole haïtien. Je vous remercie tous. Thank you very much for being with us today. C'était LEKET, la Caisse de Résonance Africaine, sur Sunuker Fm, basé à Los Angeles. LEKET, la Caisse de Résonance. Thank you so much, Aracely. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.
Bukajulizeno njogu yalduleno njogbazin Baya blay baye kumbando veno no tazin Baya blay baye kumbando veno no tazin Bagin bazen agoda zanga maro no tazin Mono